All right. I'm Kelly Watkins Conrad. I'm a field sales engineer as my day job at Jamf. But when it comes to the Matter Innovation Hub, I am the person in charge of all the technology, so the iPads, the integrations with Apple School Manager, and all the fun stuff.
Great, thank you. And Kelly's going to be telling you about some stuff in just a minute. My name's Dave Salmarsh. If you haven't seen me on a stage already, I'm the global education, used to be evangelist, strategist. I have a hard time getting that because I've been, last year this time, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I wasn't on stage. I was kind of banished to the parking lot. You know, they finally let me in this year, so it's like, that's probably why they don't let me on stage for that, and that's why they had me in the parking lot. But how many people were here last year and saw the Matter Innovation Hub out in the parking lot and toured and went inside it? Okay, great. How many people attended the session Tuesday on active learning? Several of you, great. Anybody attend yesterday's opening keynote for education? Great. I'm going to try really hard not to be redundant. And you also know I really I don't like being the sage on a stage, and I do not like being tied to a podium. It's kind of weird. I used to live in Austin, so this all right thing is interesting. You didn't get the memo, but we're all supposed to be over here. No, just kidding. I hope that I usually get squeals. I really don't like standing up on the stage and just doing that. I really prefer to be agile with the audience. Now that I know you've attended a couple other sessions, I want to get to a little bit of the point of the title that was put on this notion of a guide. And I realized while we hadn't intended to kind of give you an update on the Matter Innovation Hub program and how's it going, when we called it a guide, it was, let me tell you the 4 things we did wrong that we're going to try not to do wrong a 5th time. So those of us who've been in a bunch of organizations have made mistakes before, and we tried not to do them again the same way during the rollout of a Matter Innovation Hub program, but sometimes we didn't, and we reminded ourselves that we should have done it differently. So I'd like to share some things that we've done that we did purposely that hopefully could guide you if you're looking to do some things similar or something just in a school district, and also some of the things we reminded ourselves about that we want to really emphasize. I should start, though, because if you weren't out there last year, the program that we have started a couple years down in Haiti. A group of Jamfs got together because someone at Jamf had a little bit of money, but decided they wanted to send technology to some people down in Haiti to a group of people. They asked for volunteers, and those of us raised our hand, but very quickly we said, and I'll go ahead and get on the stage because it's probably the wrong thing to do now that there's people in the back, is we just didn't want to dump and run. We'd learned a bunch of lessons from other people about dumping and running and dropping technology. I had been in the military. I'd gone to a bunch of deployments. I always went to schools. We always dropped off packages of supplies, and people would get that photo with the kid, and then they would leave. And it irked me. And on my second overseas deployment to the same location in Bosnia, I made sure we went in, and we actually had film and photocopy paper, digital stuff, and we went in and we took photos so they could have class photos, and we came back and gave photos for all the kids instead of just taking photos for ourselves. And then I went and taught a lesson, because every time we went to this school, they tossed candy out to the kids, and they gave stuff, and the kids got all riled up, and they were so excited. But the dilemma was, the teacher would just stand there. And I thought it was just because she was sort of Russian, really angry. And I thought she would never smile. I have a photo of me, like the time I taught a lesson, how big her smile really was. Because I actually went in, instead of causing chaos, I actually caused chaos, but in a science experiment where, wow, in Bosnian means the same thing in English, apparently. When kids they experience something, they do something that they just get a reaction that they've never expected. Their eyes, their expressions is the same. So when we went to Haiti, we said, we're not going to just dump and run. We're going to make a program. So I brought a Jamf down. We were doing volunteer time. And what happened was somebody said, can you do what you did in Haiti, which was to help train a facilitator so they could use the Apple devices the way teachers were using them in the United States and change the way kids are learning and teachers are teaching. Can you do that somewhere else? Well, the somewhere else was in the poorest community in the poorest city in our hemisphere, in Cité Soleil, Haiti. And it's literally on a former trash dump. And there's no electricity, there's no running water. So we ran into a program, and I have a couple people from the organization Matter here with us, that then helped us connect with someone that had a shipping container. And we redesigned the classroom. But the classroom looked like all the other classrooms I had seen in some places, where it was just a row of counters and then computers. So we redesigned it so that we could have more of a student-centered active learning environment, and we designed a shipping container. And we put inside the shipping container 5 stations with Apple TVs at each station with a monitor, 5 iPads per station, and then big displays on the back wall for the teacher. And we sent one to Haiti, and that was right about last year. We had this one sitting out in front, and we were trying to raise funds. And we had some people donate funds, and we sent this shipping container that has solar power on it, and we sent it to Zimbabwe. And what we realized quickly is one of the things we've made a mistake in the past is there's no one-size-fits-all. There is no one-size-fits-all, and even when it comes to personalizing the experience, we need to personalize the experience for the organizations. And one of those was some places a shipping container was the perfect solution. In another location, in an orphanage in Uganda, they already had a room, and they had internet, and they actually had solar power. So getting them a station, which was a single unit of a table with a monitor and the devices, was what they really needed. They didn't need the full facility. And like our original facility that was in a building, but we learned our lesson, yeah, the power's great. Oh yeah, we've got internet. No, it was the end of a big giant L-shaped building, and yes, the power dipped about 6 times a day, and yes, that means the Wi-Fi thing goes off. Yes, that means the Apple TV resets, and we learned our lessons that, and so that's when we said we've got to come in with sustainable power. So when we're building our next center, we're going to make sure it's built to our standards, that it has sustainable energy and stuff like that. So we have 3 models now. We have this one. This is the one that was sitting out in front, and it is in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. There is a school that it's co-located with, and there's 5 other schools in the surrounding area that actually come because the students of the school use it during the day, and in the afternoons and evenings, other students use it. We have, this station is in the orphanage of Malayika House in Uganda, near Entebbe. And there's about 45 students that use this. They already had a room. These are the great facilitators. If I backed up and said, what did we also learn in our first thing? We said, and I learned this a long time ago, it's about the people and the facilitator that are running the program. And when we went into our first one, they didn't ask for it. Somebody was, the leadership at the high level wanted it, but the administrator didn't want it. Teachers didn't know anything about it. We were able to hire a facilitator 6 months in, and it started changing. The next place we were able to go in, and we interviewed the headmaster, the head facilitator, and they convinced us they wanted change. They convinced us that they wanted to see students at the center and become leaders, not passive people sitting in desks. And they hired facilitators that agreed to that within days or weeks, in the second person's case, has got Apple Teacher Certified, and we're all enthusiastic. Whereas the first place we went in, it was a struggle. And now we've made sure that that's paramount. We've also made sure that when the teachers come in, because there's a teacher involved in this, they stay in the room. Because even in the 90s when I tried to force this, most of the time it was drop off. Okay, see ya. It's like, no, I'm here to help mentor you, and then I'm always trying to work myself out of a job. So these people are trained to not let the teacher leave and stay in the room and learn alongside the kids so that they can actually step away. So that's the other really important piece, is to reiterate that facilitator and keeping the teachers there. The facility in Harare, we also learned a valuable lesson. We actually can't really bring technology to all these kids in all these other places. But what we were able to find out, and this building doesn't do it justice, you can't really see it, but it's actually 2 rooms. When I was a librarian / technology director, I started co-locating IT with libraries. One of the districts I worked in, we built a new building. I made sure the computer lab and the library were attached with a door pass-through, so you could open them up to 2. I did that in 2 different school districts where I had power to help build buildings, but I combined all the departments. And here what we're going to do is the Innovation Center will be on one side, and the other side will be a room that's really just designed, like I saw out in Hopkins, with alternative furniture. Because what we learned early on when we started going to these organizations and helping them change using technology, which I absolutely believe, as I told you, I think TEAL, Technology-Enabled Active Learning, is why I'm standing here. However, we can't necessarily do that across the world to some people, and I had the teachers challenge me, say, I don't understand how I'm supposed to do this in my classroom when we only have the Innovation Hub. And I said, well, me not standing in the front of the room and always being in a different space so there's no back of the room isn't related to technology. You asking the kids questions and allowing a child to respond, or even acting like you don't know something and letting the child be the smartest person in the room, isn't technology. Wait time. That awkward 5 to 8 seconds that we can't stand as adults isn't technology. It's making sure that all kids, because the statistics show, if I ask a question, say, what's the terminal velocity of an unladen swallow carrying a coconut? And Jeremy know that you don't even listen to the question because you know you're not even going to have time. At some point, you don't even listen to what I'm saying, let alone try to answer it, because you know I'm going to call on somebody else. And if I start, so these things that we're working on with the teachers aren't related to technology. And so we aren't calling this a technology initiative. This is a changing the instructional model initiative enabled by technology. And so when we go to Zimbabwe next week, we'll be working in one of the rooms just with the teachers on how to maybe change your furniture and maybe how to position yourself in a different space in the room so that you're never standing at the front and the kid with the last letter, I don't know who I said this to because, Brian Carroll was the top of my class, Amy Berliner was number 2. The kids with the lower letters, their first letters were all in the front, the Z's and the W's and the S's were in the back. We wanted to change that. And so we found that out that it doesn't have to be. To foster active learning and student-centered and personalized certainly is enhanced when you have some technology like Osmos and things like that, and Kelly's going to get a little bit more into that. But we don't have to have the technology. And so in your districts right now, some of you are going to say, but we don't have the money to buy all the iPads. I can't put an Apple TV in every classroom. I can't. It's 2019, and we absolutely can. I was doing it in 1993 in my classroom with 1 computer in the classroom. That didn't stop me from rearranging my furniture and treating kids like respectful and letting them answer questions and letting them be smarter than me with stuff. I used to have to carry around a 3x5 card in my pocket. I got called into the principal's office. One of your parents is complaining that apparently you don't know algebra. And my gifted and talented kids were going home and saying, Mr. Saltmarsh doesn't know what pi is. Because I'd be like, hey, does anybody know? And so I'd have to whip it out one day and go, by the way, I did know what a right triangle was, And so sometimes that doesn't go well with people. In Haiti, they were angry that I walked in and had kids present to them because they were used to being professors and everybody was supposed to just sit and be quiet like you are. So some of the key drivers that still affect kids in the United States are about the 4th Industrial Revolution. When I've walked into Department of Education's, Ministry of Education's, I don't tell them about this program. I ask them what are they trying to do. And funny enough, they just go and they start talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution, where they recognize that it's a global economic shift, and you can be living in any community in the United States, any community in the world, and you have an opportunity because of technology to possibly be working remotely, learning how to build an app, and getting it built from anywhere that you might have good internet access and access to excellent technology. And it's a knowledge-based economy. Yes, we need a lot of workers, we need skilled workers, but the bottom line is a lot of the high-tech things and the things that I don't even know, you can't even say are going to be jobs in 10 years, are going to be knowledge-based. And so you can master and achieve skills. We can have students, we have the people in these hubs learning Jamf. They're taking Jamf 100, Even though we're using Jamf School and that doesn't apply in some cases, they're learning to manage it. They have access to Apple School Manager, and they're making changes. They will get certifications in some of these programs. They may not have a college degree in computer science, but they're going to have mastery, and they're going to be able to combine that. We don't believe it's an all or nothing. It's a blended approach, but focusing on mastery means that a child living anywhere with internet access can learn a skill and actually work their way out of poverty no matter where you are. And that doesn't matter if you're in an inner city in Chicago or if you're somewhere in Zimbabwe. And we've been seeing this, but we recognize that the rest of the world is actually focusing on this very intently. And some of that comes from what we've seen in Zimbabwe. This is just kind of a photo image, so those that saw it last year, this is actually what is now happening inside. That young man, Aubrey, you would have seen on the video the other day. I actually don't need to go to Zimbabwe next week. I'm just going to go enjoy myself. She's got some work to do. I'm supposed to go train the next facilitator. She's been in the... That's not her, but he's been training the next facilitator for 3 weeks. When I get there, I don't really have something to do other than stand back and watch them do things. I've actually worked myself out of a job. I'm getting older. It's not going to be an issue in a few years. But Aubrey actually already has this person set up, and that's what our goal was. Once we empowered him, the challenges, it's always going to be about time. I know you're going to have that. Getting people to embrace change. I'm not here to convince people. I'm looking for people. We're going to places and finding the leaders. When we helped with Apple and the Connect Ed project, your principal had to be the one to apply, and the curriculum coordinator, and the IT person. You couldn't get approved if it wasn't written by the principal. We've learned that lesson. In Haiti, they have finally replaced the principal at the first school, and they're now coming to us saying, please come back down and help us. Our teachers are ready. They always were, but the headmaster wasn't. So please help us. And then identifying matching needs. Not all teachers are the same, just like in your district. We found some great teachers. We enabled them right away. We gave them the skills, and we realized that the teachers needed just as much help. And trying to help them help the students. Some of it was once we started telling them we weren't going to treat them all the same and we were going to expect gradual change. And we do have overwhelming abundance resources. People want all this content. We have stuck with the Apple, everyone can create and everyone can code. We're not going outside that realm. There's so many different directions we go. There's so many different products, so then you go so many down roads. I had a robotic ball that you saw last year. I'd drop it in front of you. And that's because there's no moving parts, and I don't want to have to be shipping. We're not seeing any problems with those. I have an iPad that broke. It's because I taught people how to take the case off it for Osmo, and I forgot to tell them, don't put your fingers on the corner of the iPad when you pop off the case. Put it on the corner of the case. And so somebody, well-meaning and attentive, pop. It's the only device we've actually had broken by a student in 2+ years. 2+ years, the only device we've had broken by a student is one who was purposely being told to take the case off and accidentally put their fingers in the wrong place. That's not going to happen twice. So as far as getting things for kids and getting them in the hands, we've seen that a child that hasn't really seen technology before has embraced the moment you put the power of presenting what you've done in front of the classroom. I all of a sudden have a bunch of kids who want to show what they know. And that's one of the first things I would encourage you to do is get the kids learning the technology. The teachers didn't need to do it. We got the kids being able to do it, and the teachers were just amazed. And from that day forward, the teachers were starting embracing the concept of spontaneously asking a child to present and show what they were doing. And when we had a question, they asked, they didn't answer. They found a child that knew it, and instantly and anywhere from in the hub. That was one of my proudest things, is really you just got to have faith in the process with kids. You got to back out of their way a little bit. We do focus on a core thing. How do you get started when you've been teaching or working for 30 years, and I've got books on my shelf on the top 100 things the best teachers do, and where do you start? Keep it simple. And by the way, in Haiti, on day 2, I handed out these rules. I take it back. I had a student hand out the rules. She didn't hand them out to the kids. she handed them out to the adults. These were for the adults. The kids were just, literally, this was on a piece of paper handed to every adult that came in the room. Number one, we got to focus on transitions, and we want to help gain students easily. So when I ask for a kid's attention, don't speak loudly and yell at them. I've got a technique. One is called wait time. Don't interrupt and go, what Mr. Saltmarsh is trying to say, or speak up, or come on, you know the answer. Let it be. Don't speak for the kids. Let awkward wait time sit and mingle. We want to promote that engagement and fostering critical thinking. Don't answer questions. I don't know. What do you think we should do? Is it that hard? I did an experiment. I went home to my mother's 80th birthday. My little niece was standing next to her. How was your trip from New York? My mother started telling me how her trip from New York was. Later that day, she was telling us how she did something. I said, so how was that, my mother? I finally grabbed my mother's hand and just squeezed. So many times you walk up to a child and you say, what's your name? And if they don't answer within a tenth of a second, the adult next to them will tell it for them. If I can't even own my name, am I going to be able to think critically about thermonuclear oscillation, right? If you won't even let me pause for a moment and collect my thoughts to say who I am, or do I really want to tell this stranger who I am? Well, I go by Dave. My mother calls me David, but okay, you can call me Salty. But in that time, you're going to speak for me. Let me own at least my name. So let children have and be able to foster that critical thinking down to the level of the simplest thing. And it's hard to do. And then learners are leaders, and this is this notion of having that child present, having that child pause, because if it is going to require them to come up here to show what they know, majority of teachers won't waste the time because they're going to lose and it's going to be chaos. So I'm going to ask you to always start off with the children knowing how to present and practicing presenting. I don't remember who was telling me about their child that's in 4th grade, and every day somebody in the class has to stand up and tell what happened the next day, and they're getting practice of doing that and at a very early age. So student-centered and student at the center, those are the things that we've focused on. So we take people who've never taught before. In fact, they're my favorite people because they don't have bad habits, they don't have these things, and it's like, work on these. The JAMPs that volunteer, they go through this. This is all I need you to do. And I don't actually think I had those rules that I mentioned. I forgot about the slide. It was one, don't touch a student's iPad, don't touch. You know how we like to say, move, and grab somebody's keyboard? I would walk into my lab, and when I first started doing this, and kids would be just doing stuff, teacher would walk into the room, kid would put the hand up, they walk over and hit the key for him and walk away. And I would, what are you doing? And I would say, why did you do that? Another kid would raise their hand and said, what is it? What do I do? I said, I don't know. What does it say? Well, it says, do I want to continue? What is it? What are your options? Yes or no? I said, I don't know, try one. But another teacher in the room would just walk over and hit that button for the child, never even made them think. So don't touch the devices for them. Not answering their questions, answering the question with a question and redirecting it back at them. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to promote the teachers to do, and I said the rest will happen. If you start doing that, the student-centered approach will happen, the activeness will happen in the classroom. There's not a lot to it. However, we do have a lot behind the scenes that is going on to facilitate that teal. How does it make it so a teacher can feel that way? There are things hidden in the background that I don't think are in a lot of other programs. When you go to other programs where they're dump and run, they haven't thought about sustainability. They haven't thought about taking care of the devices and fixing accounts. And how do you know if stuff isn't working? And you go back 2 years later and it's in mothballs, or it's rusty and you can't open the shipping container because nobody's used it because the equipment isn't working. So what's hidden in the background is the other stuff that many people don't think about that you all basically help working. And I rely on Kelly to keep working.
Thanks, Salty. All right. So what Salty was just talking about is really the most important component of what we do. So it really comes down to how are we teaching these kids, making them the center, making them the teacher, which, as Salty mentioned, for a lot of different cultures, that is not the norm. And so the technology that we have in the Innovation Hub simply enhances that process. So I'm just going to go over some of these different technologies on how they're used and how they help enhance the learning experience. So utilizing Apple School Manager, PowerSchool. We have Jamf School as our chosen MDM, powering the hub with solar, and then utilizing Ubiquiti for our network. To go into each of these a little bit more, starting off with Apple School Manager. Apple School Manager is really the backbone for all of the technology to make everything work seamlessly. So the most important thing with Apple School Manager is utilizing the automated MDM enrollment or the device enrollment program as you may know it. And this simply means that devices will come out of the box already managed by our Jamf School instance. So it makes it really seamless for volunteers to help set up the iPads. But then it also allows us to ensure that the devices are tied to Matter. So no matter what happens, we always are sure to have those be secured. And not only do we have that, but we also utilize shared iPads. So without Apple School Manager, we wouldn't be able to utilize managed Apple IDs to allow our kids to be able to sign in to several of these iPads. So we have about 10 to 12 or so kids that can sign in on one iPad. So it makes it really easy for us to be able to have a set number of devices, about 28 or so iPads for students. And then as we get more kids that are coming in, we don't have to continually send out more iPads to accommodate that. The other really nice thing with Apple School Manager is that there are locations in there. So if you're not familiar with Apple School Manager, you can actually have various spots. So we have one Apple School Manager instance, but then we have different locations for all of our different schools. So it makes it really easy for us to be able to transfer licenses from one location to another. Makes it really easy to have devices tied to one specific school without overlapping. And not only that, this also allows us to utilize the Apps and Books feature, otherwise known as the Volume Purchase Program. And we have several applications that we push out to all of our iPads. This is just a list of some of them that are pretty common across all locations. We do have a few that are not on here, but some that you might expect, all of the Apple native applications, so your keynotes, your numbers. We also include Swift Playgrounds in there. So coding is one aspect that we do have there. So again, it's not only about the technology, but the teaching method is really the most important part. And the nice thing with Swift Playgrounds is not only do you have that standalone application, but it also ties into other applications, such as the Sphero EDU application. So the robotic balls that Salty had talked about. Once we have kids get a little bit familiar with moving around the iPad, getting a little bit more familiar with Swift Playgrounds, we can take out those robotic balls, and then we can actually have them code through an obstacle course that we set for them. So that's something that's really fun for the students. And I would say that probably out of all of the applications that we get to deploy out to all of our kids, the most loved one is probably the Osmo application. So I only have Osmo listed here, but there's actually several different variations of that. So you have the ability to spell out words, to build various shapes, and being able to code. And the reason why kids really like this application is because you can do things on the table in front of you, but then the iPad sees it and you can actually interact with it. And so there's really no other application that we're using that allows you to physically interact with the iPad in the real world. So a really, really cool application. If that's something, it's a great Christmas gift. But it's definitely something that the kids really love to have. Now, moving away from the apps and books, we also do integrate with a student information system. So we do utilize PowerSchool in 3 of our locations. So we are using this in Teton Yen, as well as Cité Soleil, and the Victoria Falls location. The reason why we are using PowerSchool for these locations is because the organization in Haiti wanted something to allow for attendance. So their organization has various sponsors for their students, and they wanted to make sure that they could get attendance to make sure that their donors are knowing that the kids are going to school. We are utilizing PowerSchool in our Victoria Falls location because we put in the rosters and then just to automatically create those managed Apple IDs, which is really nice. Now for some of our other locations where we maybe have 10 kids, 1 class, PowerSchool is a little too powerful. It's kind of overkill. So for those, I'm simply manually creating the classes and the student accounts in Apple School Manager and then having those sync over to Jamf School. So it kind of depends on the need for it. In some places it makes sense, but some places it doesn't. But it's really nice to kind of be able to have the option if we need it. Moving out of Apple School Manager, talking a little bit about our chosen MDM. So when this program first started, Jamf Pro was our only product at that time. So of course, we used Jamf Pro to manage our devices. So right now, Jamf Pro is being used for our 2 Haiti locations, simply because we haven't had a chance to migrate them. So our first one that we migrated over was our Victoria Falls location. So in the time that we had purchased Zulu Desk, I had already done all the really great work of enrolling the devices, getting them all set up in Jamf Pro, only for 4 months to go by, and then once we got to Victoria Falls, I had to then migrate them. And as you can imagine, that presented a bit of a challenge with the internet being as consistent as we would have liked at the time. But making that change has actually made things really easy. The really nice thing about Jamf School that I didn't find in Jamf Pro is the Apple School Manager integration piece is really, really nice. So the locations that you have in Apple School Manager, being able to actually pick what location you want that to go into in Jamf School is something that Jamf Pro doesn't really have. So I would find that with the Haiti locations, when I wanted to sync over certain students, it would ask you for a different domain, but everything had the same domain in Apple School Manager, so it would just bring everything over, and that was just a huge mess. So that was something that I really welcomed, really liked. But the other thing is that Jamf Pro is a pro product, and we're talking to some facilitators that have no experience with this whatsoever. So Jamf School's simpler interface really made it easy for us to be able to go in there, train our facilitators how to do basic stuff in there, and because we are so iPad heavy, we can take advantage of things like the Jamf teacher application, Jamf student application, and then hopefully someday in the future, maybe the parent application. So that is the reason why we have decided to go with Jamf School for those reasons, and hopefully soon we will be migrating our 2 remaining locations into Jamf School to have everything all under one instance. So that is everything in the technology when it comes to the devices, how we manage them. I'd like to talk a little bit about the hub itself. So when it comes to actually powering the hub, so we utilize solar energy whenever possible, and the thing is in some locations like Haiti, where there's plenty of sunshine, it was a big open area, solar was great. We have a backup generator just in case, but we never really needed to use it once we got those panels hooked up. In our Victoria Falls location, which is what you're seeing here, they did a great job of having this beautiful concrete slab. They had the container all ready to go, and it was underneath this beautiful tree. It was underneath a beautiful tree where the solar panels were going to go. And so when we got there, that was a little bit of a surprise. There were conversations about legitimately cutting down this really awesome tree. So instead, we were talking about it, what can we do to mitigate what had just happened? And we decided to move the solar panels off of the roof of the container and instead put them on a shed. And the really cool thing is, usually people would be kind of, this is not in the plan, that's not something that you want, but they saw this as a really great opportunity to not only have solar, but then also put it in a location where kids can see it. So they were really jazzed about the idea of having the kids be involved with the solar panels, cleaning them, learning how they work. So with the solar itself, we have 8 12-volt marine batteries, which are set up as 4 24-volt batteries, and we have 9 330-watt solar panels. And when it comes to the batteries, you can't ship those. So a challenge that we ran into is once we got to Zimbabwe, they didn't have any batteries. So we had driven around Victoria Falls looking in the hardware stores, and I think we might have found 1 battery or something, which wasn't going to cut it. And so some of the other people in the Love for Africa organization actually went into Zambia, which isn't really that far, it's just across the river, to look in there to see if there was any batteries. They found some, but not enough. And so I believe the host that we were staying with, his parents drove 4 hours into Botswana to find the remaining batteries, and they were just the sweetest people. So we were able to get the batteries, and so we had to use our backup generator as well to kind of bridge that gap. But the nice thing as well is because they are using this facility so much, having that backup generator allows us to be able to continue into the night when we have other schools, adults that are coming in there and taking advantage of all the really great tech that we have in there. The network. So I do have to admit, I am not a network guru. The person on our team that works with a network couldn't join us today, but we utilize Ubiquiti. And the reason why we went with them is because they were just really highly recommended. So we have a lot of Jamfs that use this at home, and when we were kind of putting out the feelers of what should we use, this was really the resounding answer that we got. So the cost was right, it's easy to set up, and when it comes to the internet, for all of these locations. You might be wondering, I'm sure internet that you get in Haiti might be different than what you get in Uganda, so what does that look like? So for our 2 Haiti locations, we utilize cellular internet, and we would get to about 20 megs on a good day, not consistently, and that would be able to get some of the work done. When we got to Victoria Falls, they had fiber, and that was like the coolest thing in the world. I didn't expect that, so everything's super fast, able to do everything that we need, which is great. For our locations in Uganda and Senegal, they don't have fiber. So they actually are utilizing satellite internet, and because of the lack of internet that is very quick, whenever we need to do refreshes of these iPads pushing out applications, we're actually going to have some of them shipped down to Victoria Falls when we're there next week, so I can actually perform some of these troubleshooting items, getting the applications updated. So that has been a challenge that we've had in various locations, and so we're hoping that we might be able to upgrade some of those networks, some of the other more remote locations. So that's everything tech, but really the most important part of all of this is how is this affecting people in real life? So we have 3 facilitator jobs that were not there before. We have 5 locations all across the world and 156 VTO hours. So that's volunteer time off. Here at Jamf, we are really lucky that we get VTO in addition to PTO. So I don't have to take additional time off in order to go support causes that I really believe in. And then we have actually over 1,100 students that have been impacted. That number is now less than what we have been doing once I recently added in some kids. So it's amazing to see the reach of how many people can be impacted by this. So just to kind of give you an idea of where these locations are on a map. So starting in August of 2017, we had our first innovation center in Titanyen in Haiti, so an actual physical building. In October of 2018, that is when we put an innovation pod in Cité Soleil. So that was the city that Salty had been talking about. A lot of there's no electricity, no running water, so definitely a place that can really benefit from having something like this. It's unfortunate that if you're born in Cité Soleil, you're seen as someone that essentially will never do anything else, and it's really awful. And so by giving kids an opportunity to actually get an education that's better than some schools that are actually in Haiti, to suddenly break that barrier that's set on them simply because they were born in the wrong place, is something that we take a ton of pride in, and hopefully allow them to be able to kind of break that stigma if they're from Cité Soleil. Then in May of 2019, we dropped another pod in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, the pictures that you had just seen. And then, since then, we've evolved a little bit away from the centers and the pods to also include various stations. So in July of 2019, Salty went out to Senegal to put up a station. You can actually see that outside, kind of by the front doors. Matter has one of them set up, where you have just a nice little table with a TV, and then you're able to kind of interact with it that way. So if you have more limited space, limited funds, it's a really great option for some of those institutions. And then in August of 2019, we dropped another station at Malaika House in Uganda. And so they've been doing a lot of really cool things there. I'll talk a little bit about an update on them in just a minute. And then lastly, Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, opening up next week. So Salty and myself will be heading down, or yes, it would be down from Minnesota, to Zimbabwe next week. Really excited about what we're going to see there, some new challenges that we'll have, and hopefully we'll be back here again next year with even more locations on this map. Now, I'm talking a lot about how great everything is, but you probably want to know what's the real stuff. I want to see real things, real results. So I'd like to show you a video of a child in Cité Soleil. And again, this is a child who had not touched a smartphone, iPad, anything before. So this is his very first time interacting with an iPad and his very first time ever interacting with something like a sphero ball. Now, I just want you to see the look on his face when he gets to play with this. So right now he has a friend on the other side there. He's trying to get the ball between his legs. So, yeah, just look at that smile. So this is something that is totally new for him. All of a sudden, all these opportunities that are now starting to become a reality for him. He's never done anything like this before. Maybe now this is going to inspire him of, hey, maybe I can start coding an app for some other fun things in here. I can do this in Haiti. I can continue to help the economy in Haiti. So it's something that really warms your heart. For our Victoria Falls location, so we actually have other schools that are coming in to use this facility. They are very popular over there, and that's why we actually are getting a lot of traction in other locations in Zimbabwe. People want this at their school. It's a huge demand. And so you have Aubrey in the middle there with a bunch of kids. And I've talked a lot about the kids, because the kids are really important, but I also mentioned that we have 3 jobs that were created for adults because of these programs. And I know you got the opportunity to see a video from Aubrey a few days ago in the keynote, but I just wanted to share a little bit from Aubrey on what he thinks about the Innovation Hub and how it's impacted him. If there's sound.
Like, especially the day the container came, and then I met Soti, everything, I can't even really explain how everything happened for me. It was like a dream, to tell the truth, because I never imagined that I would be here, I'll be in this position.
Did you, so you're Apple certified, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, what that was like, and what that feels like for you personally. Because you're like one of the only Apple certified in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah. I am the only Apple certified teacher in Zimbabwe, and possibly in Africa. So I started in the program, I think in July, just after Soti left. And then on 1 August, that's when I got the certificate. I finished all the 8 pages for the Apple teacher, yeah.
That's so cool. That's gotta feel pretty cool to like be leading that for your country.
Yeah.
Like, cause I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. Is you're one of the first that's really training the next generation on how to be equipped and set up to be able to thrive in that type of environment. So like, what are your dreams for that future for Zimbabwe, and how does that feel to be kind of helping lead that?
Yeah, I feel very proud of myself also to be like a pioneer for all this, and also I feel really happy for my country, because if this hadn't come here, who knows what could be happening in the future, because this has really changed like the scope of everything. So I think I could have changed so many kids what they maybe what they thought their future would be like, and now what they think it will be like, because they have had the experience in here. My mom, I talk to her almost every day. I chat on WhatsApp, and she's really proud of me. And she never even thought that this could be happening to me right now. When I just came to Victoria Falls, she thought maybe I would just get this part of the country is mostly tourism dominated, so she thought maybe I was getting a job in the tourism industry, maybe in wildlife, maybe at the hotels or something like that. But to think that this has happened, it's really, I don't know, I don't really have the word for it, because I never even thought that this could happen.
So the impact that we're having on not just kids, but adults that are having jobs that didn't exist before, this is a whole new path that Aubrey is essentially leading in his country of Zimbabwe. It's truly amazing. So other updates. So our Senegal location, it's starting to get up and running. I don't have a ton of updates for you right now on what's going on, but we're hoping that next year at this time, we have more information about how they've been using the station and the impact that has been made there. In our Uganda location, at the Molecular House. So things are actually going so well there that they've received more funding to get 5 more iPads and setting up a second station at their location. And they're really hoping that they'll be able to get even more. So we're starting to see a lot of traction there. Again, hoping to have a really great update for you next year from Uganda. Now, I do just want to close out and just let you hear from the kids themselves on what they think of the Innovation Hub, straight from them.
Really love coming here and doing it.
That's so cool.
And our children have benefited so much. You know, children are amazing. They're just so fearless to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all child-centered. And the children are teaching themselves, teaching one another. And our staff are just doing so much more facilitating.
Oh, cool.
So it's really opened up our world in a great way, and we're so fun. I'd like to see every one of my classrooms like this.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
The best place I've ever been in. It's fantastic.
Incredibly amazing.
I feel like I've entered a techno world.
Very awesome.
I feel like I'm in heaven. I would say they did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing us the hub. Thank you. You can never repay you.
Exactly. You can never thank or repay you. It's too much.
Say, out of all the schools, you picked our school, and we're really thankful for it.
I'm really thankful, and I never imagined I could be working in a place like this.
So that's not all I have, but I did want to bring up Jeremy from one of our partner, Matter, to talk a little bit about an initiative that they have going on right now.
Yeah, thanks you guys for listening to that. So Matter is an organization that's been around 20 years here in Minneapolis, international NGO, worked in 63 different countries. The only way we do work is through partnerships, through people like Love for Africa and what they're doing there. We're thrilled to be a part of this with JAMF and really expand this vision. So right now our mission is to expand the message that you matter. That's why we wear these t-shirts. It's that you're here irrespective of your geographic location, your social economic status, your religion, your station in life. You matter, you have big visions for your community, and you want to see change happen. And that we're there to hear those ideas and help empower those ideas. So that's what we're doing right now. They really we brought this idea to them, and that school 100% embraced it and is adapting it. So what we're doing is trying to do sponsor a student. So if you want to know of anybody who has had enough Christmas gifts, doesn't need any more junk, $25 a month is what we can do to sponsor students. And get more access to, right now we have 5 schools, even though this is only at one school, we have 5 schools visiting this, so they come on a weekly rotation, and we're going to be setting up another one there at the school, so if we can get more funding, we can help more kids get access to that. So thanks to JAMF and for all their support in making this happen. I'll just say briefly, like we used to do education, and we got out of it because the results were less than stellar. We'd set up computer labs, and they get highly underutilized. Really, the technology that JAMF has provided has allowed us to get back into it with confidence, like that these children are actually having a customized learning path and are going to be utilizing the knowledge that they're gaining. And so we're thrilled to be a part of it.
Thank you. All right, and we're willing to, if anyone has any questions, we're all here. We'd love to help answer them.
And we know we are at time, so if you're going to get up and leave, that's great. I could give you another hour's worth of actual data of some stuff that's going on, but we don't have that. So I appreciate we're at time, but if you want to ask questions, please still do.
Thank you.
On after. Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's not a question for the room. It's just
Oh, okay. So we'll turn off the. If nobody has a question for the podium, we'll turn off the mics. I just want to be respectful because I know we went over the time, and I apologize to those. I still have a mic on, so I'm going to say, by the way, we do have a bunch of other partners. Jamf is just a contributor to this. I'm going to say, Jamf did help get this started. We are just a partner. We have Lock and Charge is providing all of the cabinets we use. We have Sphero, the robotic ball company we talked about. They provide that, and we have curriculum from them. Osmos has now jumped in and helping us. We have other partners helping in other ways, like Secret, you heard from Dean mention. So there are a lot of other people behind us. We are just the face. We contribute basically pro bono, my time and Kelly's time. That's what Jamf provides. We did do some funding through our Global Foundation. We have done some personal contribution, but mostly Jamf has said we'll give for free our software to the Matter program, and we'll give our expertise where we can pro bono, supporting them in this mission. So there's always opportunities for others. We want to see this continue going, and we certainly want to hear from others, have other ideas, or we're trying to get more details. The last comment I'll make is this thing is only 60% baked. I forgot the most important thing really is this is not a full-fledged program. The other stakeholders are the vital piece, and if they know that they have to come and help make this work, they have more ownership. And that's my last piece of, if you're trying to make a guide of supporting something like this, don't have the whole plan. Don't let somebody convince you that you have to give them the whole plan. We're giving you 60% to 70% to get up and going. We need the people on the ground, the location, the school, the leaders to want to own the program and be a stakeholder. That's where I failed the most in the past, is not making sure the other people understood they owned it and they were vital to it. So, thanks.
And be sure to fill out the survey for our session too. We'd appreciate it.